Show of hands, who here worked with Adobe software like Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects? Cool. So you know what it is. So I don't have to explain it. Adobe is synonymous with creation and creativity, with digital creation. And let me take you a little back in time, 20 years ago, to October 25th, 1996. And this was the Adobe homepage back then. It's really creative for the time, really, trust me. And this is the entire website. It's like that was the resolution of monitors back then. And you can see that there's a nice fancy image, and you can buy fonts for $49, and you can download Acrobat Reader. So times have changed since then. And if we go forward in the future, 20 years, this is the Adobe homepage as of yesterday. And it looks much nicer, right? It's much more vivid, has a lot more images, the message is clear. But it's also kind of like something you'd see in a print magazine. There's nothing inherently interactive about this image. Let me compare this with something else. This is a game from 1996. This is Tomb Raider by Codealnd. And in this section, you play as Lara Croft, raiding a temple, evading this large pixelated daggers or something. And it's funny, but it's fun. It's a fun game. It's a bit dated, but it's fun. It's mysterious, challenging. But let's do the same trick. Let's go forward in time, 20 years, and see what has changed in video games. And this is Rise of the Tomb Raider by Crystal Dynamics from 2016. And right, it looks better. The graphics are better, no doubt about it. But a lot other things have changed. The storytelling has changed. So right now it's a whole lot more there's a whole lot cinema qualities going on with this thing. The camera angles, the storytelling, the sound, the framing of the actual thing that you're seeing. So the advancement here were not only technological, they are about storytelling. They are about emotion connection with the user, with the player. And this is something that we call, in gaming, we call this juice. So what is the thing? What is this thing called juice? So a definition that I like by two game developers, Martin Jonasson and Petri Puro, says, juice is typically auditory or visual. It's about maximum output from minimum input. It's not about the game design, the game mechanics. It's not about the graphics. It's about the emotional impact your game can make on your user, how it makes them feel rather than what it plays. It's about taking a game like Breakout and turning it from this to this, and eventually to this. And I particularly like how the pedal is kind of surprised that the ball is going. It's the exact same game, it's the exact thing, but it has more juice. So, my name is Opher. I'm based in Tel Aviv. I came all the way here to talk to you about this thing that I'm very passionate about. I'm a creative developer at a company called Echo. What is a creative developer? So essentially, I'm a web developer, but I'm also a designer, and I do everything in between. And I just like mixing it up, these two disciplines, to create new and interesting things. So today, I'm going to be showing you 4 new ways to juice up your websites, or using video game paradigms to make your websites more interactive. So we have to start from somewhere. And that somewhere is a Bootstrap, open source Bootstrap template that we're going to be looking at. Let's see where my mouse is at. OK. So this is this Bootstrap template. It's open source. At the end of the talk, you could have a link to it. And we're going to do some work on this to show you exactly how we can turn this into a more juicier template. OK, perfect. So let's talk about the first part, ambient animations. What are ambient animations? So these are animations that run in the background and give you a sense that the experience you're looking at as a more interactive experience. It's just not just a static page. It gives you a sense of location, a sense of aesthetic. Let's see how examples from video games. So this is a game called Mirror's Edge, and this is the main menu, or just before the menu. And just from the get-go, you can see that this has this, maybe it happens in a city, it has like a clean minimalist aesthetic to it. And as you progress to the actual game menu, the same aesthetic remains, but now you know that you're looking at this interactive thing. Let me contrast this with the login menu from World of Warcraft. So this is much less subtle, but like from the music, from the animation, you know what you're looking at, you know what you're getting into. And another example is a game called Rocket League, which is essentially cars playing soccer. And here you have confetti in the background, you have the car with a wizard's hat, obviously. And it really gives you a sense of the atmosphere of the game that you're about to play. But this is not just, this doesn't work only in the websites. This can only work, it could also work in, it doesn't only work in video games, it could also work in websites. So you can go from something very, I hope you can see this here, not really on the projector, but there's like a mild ocean flowing in the background of this page. Or it can be not just a video or some elements like this screen flicker and this tree in this web page. It doesn't have to be a full video. Or like you can go all out and, for example, you have this website about yachts that actually has yachts and airplanes, and like depending on your budget, what exactly you want to put in the background. So let's look at our template again and see how we can apply this principle to our Bootstrap template. So this is the background image that we have right now, and let's turn on this, and voila, we have something more interesting, more interactive to look at. Okay, so ambient animations make the experience feel dynamic rather than stale, because you're looking at an interactive thing. How is this implemented? It could be just a simple video element, HTML5 video element, and all the contents can be overlaid on top of it. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about particles. So what are particles? Particles are tiny elements, or they don't have to be tiny, but they are multiple elements that you animate using a system to give some sort of life and magic to your interactive experience. So I want to show you an example from a game I particularly love called Hearthstone by Blizzard Entertainment. Woo! Yeah. So this is a digital collectible card playing game. Yeah, got it right. Where I'll show you a clip of a player, opening a new pack of cards. So let's work through that in a slower motion. And you'll be able to see like the lights in the background. And as the card pack is opening up, you have more like light modes coming out of it. And then you have debris flying out and petals. And as the user hovers over the image, you have like tiny like glowy effect things. It really helps to sell that you're looking at this amazing, magical experience. Let's look at examples from a website. So this is a small subtle particle animation, but you can go full out. This is from Huffington Post, and they use particles to make a likeness. And then they use the same particles to make a map. And it really just adds so much more magic to the atmosphere of the article. So let's take a look at how can we do this with a website. So we have this callback button here, but it's okay, like it stands out. But what if we added particles? So now there's somewhat more magic in there, right? Yeah. And if I hover over this, you get even more particles. Like, you can't go wrong with more particles. It's just like, OK. Particles add a sense of magic and mystery. And they are an efficient solution to create atmosphere without spending too much time doing animation. OK. How can you implement this? There's a library called Codealnd. It's really cool. You'll have the link at the end. So moving on, camera movement. What's camera movement? So obviously, if you have a game, you have characters in the game, you have items in the game. They all live in this world. So what is this world they live in? You can look at them so that you look at them through something. What is this something? It's a camera. It's a virtual camera. And you can play with it as if it were a movie or a show. So in games, you have something called, in games and videos, something called screen shake. When something happens, then the camera shakes itself to demonstrate that something like amazing or serious has happened. But it's not just limited to explosions and falling things. In this 2D game, the camera still shakes, and it feels nice, right? But you can go even more abstract. In this game about a rectangle exploding circles, it still makes you feel powerful to go through this thing and like explode those little circle thingies. OK, let's see examples from websites. So here you can see as the camera pans down from the sea level to below the sea level, you even have some more particles there. So you get this movement. This website for the Seattle Space Needle, right? Shows like the location and the height of the actual building, which is nice. This site shows you the scale of the solar system by scrolling horizontally. And this is all due to this effect of actually moving a virtual camera. And lastly, this is an article from the New York Times, you'll see in a second, where the article talks about scaling a wall, a mountain. And the camera, as you scroll through the article, the camera pans through the actual locations on the mountain, which is pretty cool. So what can you do with camera movement in a website? So we have this Contact Us button that if you click on it, it goes down to the Contact button. But we can make it more interesting. If we turn on camera movement, then now this action has suddenly some more weight behind it. OK. So camera movement adds realism and drama to user action and can help convey meaning, a sense of location, and serve as a reward for user action if you did something that you wanted him to do. And how do you implement this? There are many ways. My example used just CSS keyframe animation. Moving on to last but not least, physics. So what are physics? Well, you know what physics are. But what are physics in the context of video games? So those are, that's a system that allows you to tie your game mechanics to a known system from real life. Let's see this in a game. So Angry Birds, you know Angry Birds, the purpose of which to save your eggs by destroying buildings or something, yeah? Or in this example from a game called Kerbal Space Program, you are a rocket scientist and you need to build a spaceship, but you're not a rocket scientist in real life, so you can't build a spaceship. Because building spaceships are hard. Yeah, so in websites, this is a really cool example that I liked from a studio called Work. And what I like is that as you move from section to section with your mouse, there's this little wobbly thing, which is really cool. It gives you this thing to play with and experiment. So how do we implement this in our in our template. OK, so we have this contact form. And if we put something wrong in the email address, then you get this validation error, which is not nice. But what if we turn on the physics? What if the form actually breaks? That's OK. I can still put in my name. OK, but it still goes back to normal, so we're good. Physics sets a sense of fun and excitement. It lets users experiment. And it's a system that's familiar from real life, but at the same time, leads to unexpected and surprising results. And that's because you know physics. If you throw a rock 10 times, 10 different things will happen. This was implemented with a library, a JavaScript library called Matter.js. I showed you all these things. What are they even good for? So fun. Fun is important, both for you as a developer and for the person watching your experience. If you're all having fun, then the world is better. It's good for engagement because your user is emotionally engaged with your content. It's good with user retention because your users have more to do with your experience. They have a reason to come back to. But with great power comes great cliches. I showed you all these things. It doesn't mean that you have to do all of them at the same time. Pick and choose what works for your experience. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, come to me. I will be here. I'll be the person who stood here and talked to you, so you remember me. And find me on Twitter, GitHub, my website, whenever. Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's give it a round of applause.